Good evening, and thank you so much for being here. Um, Welcome to our info session for future Sierra Club outings leaders in the Bay Area. My name is Virginia Reinhardt, and I'm the director of the Sierra Club San Francisco Bay chapter, which spans Contra Costa, Alameda, San Francisco, and Marin counties. Just want to go over a few housekeeping items. First, you'll notice that we are recording this evening to share this information with folks who can't be here live tonight. Second, we'll ask that please mute yourself until we get into the Q&A portion later on so that we can hear our speakers super clearly. Third, we're going to have time for questions in breakout rooms with the different section leaders at the end, so hold on to your questions. And also, we are going to have some raffles throughout the evening. So if you registered online for this event, your name is in the drawing, and we will be giving out some Sierra Club swag. So, and William, if you could just, if there's any sound issues, if you could mute folks as we're going, thank you so much. So we super appreciate everyone being here tonight. Increasing access to the outdoors for everybody is core to our mission here at Sierra Club, as you'll all know. So whether it's a pocket park in an urban area or a remote corner of a national park, we all know that experiencing nature has incredible benefits, from improvements to our physical and mental health to a deeper and more personal investment in protecting this planet for future generations. At Sierra Club, we believe that access to nature is a human right, and that's why our outings program is so important to us. The majority of our outings organized under the chapter's umbrella through our many diverse outing sections are free and open to the public. And we hope that after tonight, many of you will choose to become Sierra Club outing leaders. Tonight, you'll hear from incredible local volunteers from a number of our activity sections, which are the groups that form around a particular type of outing or theme. The first of these leaders is Anne Lair. Anne has been a member of the Sierra Club and our Rainbow Sierrans outing section for 33 years. She started leading trips for Rainbow Sierrans in 2012 and became chair of that section 3 years ago. Her favorite local place to lead hikes is Mount Diablo. This year, Anne became the chair of our chapter's activities committee, which supports the chapter's various sections, many of which are represented here tonight. So I now have the honor of passing the Zoom mic over to Anne. And you're on mute.
Thank you, Virginia. So I'd like to take just a couple of minutes to talk about the benefits of being an outings leader. I became an outings leader actually quite after I'd been a member for many years and after I'd been on outings for a number of years. And I just decided that after having been a participant for so long, that I wanted to do my part to help out, to give back to the organization. The Sierra Club is a very well-known and respected environmental organization. And people are attracted to our outings, not only for outdoor recreation, but also to meet other people who care about the environment. And outings are, as Virginia said, an effective form of outreach. Many people join the Sierra Club after they've gone on an outing or two. So it's a great way to bring people into the club. And of course, people who spend time in the environment and come to love nature, the natural world, are also motivated to then work to protect the environment. Sierra Club outings have a reputation for quality. People choose our outings because they can count on competent leadership and a well-planned, well-executed activity. Also, the Sierra Club supports its leaders. Leaders are trained in both outdoor leadership and in first aid. So we're well prepared. The Sierra Club provides a calendar system for publicizing our outings. The Sierra Club also provides liability coverage and just backup of all kinds in case of an unexpected incident. And finally, there's the camaraderie with other leaders in the activity section. I've made many friends and acquaintances that I've had for many, many years through my activity section, and it's a big part of my life.
Amazing. Thanks so much, Anne. All right, so next we have got Bob Solitar, the vice chair of our activities committee, here to talk about the requirements, the basic requirements to become an outings leader.
Well, hello, everyone. The basic requirement to become an outings leader, first of all, you have to be an official Sierra Club member, an official dues paying member. So that's step one. If you're here, we have to assume that you've already taken that first step. Then the club has some internal trainings known as outdoor leadership training. They're in the process of revising some of the training, but basically there's an internal training to get you familiar with how to lead outings and what the Sierra Club does, how it's structured, et cetera, et cetera. The other basic requirement, which may be one of the more important ones, is first aid training. And the national club requirement is a minimum of Red Cross first aid or its equivalent. The chapter offers a first aid course, a basic wilderness first aid course, and obviously that's the course that we would recommend. But different sections have different requirements. So whichever section you choose to lead for, you should be talking with the section leadership to find out what first aid training is required and what your choices are for that first aid training. The one other point that I would mention is that you don't necessarily have to take the chapter first aid training if, for instance, you get first aid through your workplace as part of your job. You may be able to use that to qualify for Sierra Club first aid training. By the same token, if you're medical personnel, just the fact that you are medical personnel and have medical training may qualify you for meeting that first aid requirement. And again, you would want to talk to your chapter or your section leadership to find out if the training you have would qualify. And that's really the basic requirements. And I'll hand it back to you, Virginia.
Thanks, Bob. Well, we are going to turn it over next to immediate past chair of our activities committee, William Uregi. And I'm going to try to find you here. Have you spotlit yourself here?
Thank you.
All right, take it away.
And I'm going to talk about outings.
Do it.
So this is just a summary of what to look for in an outing, specifically how we organize, how we structure, and what our intent is when we lead a hike or a bike ride. So effectively, this assumes that the leader has already identified where they want to go. They have a plan. They have a location where they want people to meet. And the objective is to gather as many people as you can into an area for the outing. We use a combination of two different media. One is an event calendar that's under Campfire, and the second is Meetup, which is a social media platform. Meetup is really effective in gathering people. A lot of people from outside the club. Tends to be a fairly young group, whereas the event through Campfire tends to be an older population. People that are more comfortable with receiving their information through the Odler or other newspaper publications put out by the club. So you identify the hike that you're going to do or the outings that you're going to have. You publicize that through the event calendar or through Meetup. This sets, you have a date and a time, basically an outline of what you want to accomplish. So for instance, I do moonlight hikes on Mission Peak in Fremont. By advertising, I advertise that it's a difficult hike, which gives everybody the opportunity then to identify whether they want to go on that hike or not. Bike rides are the same. We identify the difficulty, the length. You can advertise stopping points, COVID restrictions or parameters. So for instance, in the club, we don't ask people whether they're vaccinated, but we can ask or recommend that they bring masks. The hike itself, once you've advertised it and you have listed and a number of people that are going to show up, the next step is to actually show up at the hike and or the outings. And basically what we do at that point is we ask people to sign a waiver that absolves the club of any responsibility. Normally in the event calendar, I put that information in so that people know that there is going to be a waiver. Once we have the document signed and everybody gathered at the starting point, we hold a short speech about what's going to take place, where we're going, what we're doing. Mine takes usually about 4 minutes. So my typical hike starts at 6:30, ends at 10 o'clock. By 6:35, we're on the trail. So a very short comment about what's taking place. You outline any hazards that are on the trail. So for myself, it's cattle, potentially animals, snakes in particular. And then the other issue is, poison oak. So I alert people to that, explain what they need to do to be prepared, and then we take off. So hikes itself are, or outings, we've done bike rides down the Iron Horse Trail. We've done bike rides to Treasure Island. We've done bike rides out to Coyote Hills. And so the deal is that you're not going actually from A to Z. You're going from A to B to C to D. So you're going to have stops on the outing. And what you do then is you gather everybody up. So you've got people that are slower, they catch up. If you got people that are faster, they can slow down. I do that on my outings because I want to make it a joint and joyful experience. And the way to do that is to make sure that everybody's communicating with each other. So taking time to actually gather people on the outing, pull them together, point out, and identify issues or plants, fauna. For instance, in California, we have native oaks, we have bay laurel trees, we have buckeyes, and those are all trees that have nuts that were used by the Indians. So during my hikes, I pull people aside and actually show them the nuts, show them the leaves, have them smell the leaves, have them, understand that this is actually, these are actual trees that are impacted by climate change. And we have that conversation. So I try to embed within my outings a little bit of information, actually a lot of information about what people are passing through. So one of our stops is we look out over the landscape and I point out Mount Diablo, Monument Peak, Black Mountain. When we stop for the, and analyze the trees, we talk about sudden oak death. On top of the mountain, while we're sitting there and standing, and we take pictures, which we then post on Meetup. And those are then distributed to everybody that attends the hike. So what I'm trying to do is make it a community event. When we finish the outings, everybody gathers at the end point, and we have a short message of thanks, and people leave. Pictures are posted. If there's any comments, those are posted, and then we wait for the next outing, which by the way will be Saturday night for a moonlight hike on Mission Peak. That's it.
That's amazing. Thanks, William. And for those who missed it, I dropped the link to the online events calendar in the chat here. It's sierraclub.org/sfbay/events. And you can find William's hike and others on that calendar. And that's where yours will be posted once you become an outings leader. We are going to be going next in, we're next going to be hearing from leaders from a few outing sections who could be here to represent their section. So first we are going to have Thomas Meisner, who is the, I believe the chair of our backpacking section. And Thomas, you should now have the ability to share a screen when you want to. And I am going to pass it over to you.
Okay, good evening, everyone. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, so thanks again for inviting me. I'm Thomas Meisner, chair of the backpack section. And I want to just say a couple of words about our section. We have been around since the late 1960s, currently about 20 active leaders. And while before COVID, we were doing about 20 trips each year. Unfortunately, that has sort of ceased with the COVID. It has been a slow start. We just will have our first post-COVID trip actually on this weekend. Typically, we lead trips during March, from March to October. And the trips are generally posted on Campfire. We don't use Meetup. Sometimes also they go into the Yodeler. And then I listed a couple of areas where we're going: Bay Area, Point Reyes, Ohlone, Henry Cove, Big Basin before the fire at least. Lost Coast up in Mendocino County is it's always been popular. Of course, then during summer, the High Sierra, Yosemite, Sequoia, Tahoe area. Occasionally also Larsen area, Trinity Alps is also popular, and also Eastern Sierra. Typically, our trips are sort of in the range with 4 days. Occasionally longer, up to a week, but rarely beyond that. I don't want to just mention it to sign up. That's for our case, because we are going into the backcountry. Of course, we need to be a little more rigorous, so to say. We screen people in advance, in other words. So people have to contact the leader before the trip, and then go through all the process, answer some questions about the experience, fill out medical forms, and so on. We have a trip fee also for our trip, so typically ranges between $20 and $50. And of course, the leader will be in contact with the groups and give them relay information, when to meet and what to bring and so on. So it's for backpacking, we need to have a little more planning than just if you go on a day hike or day bike ride. We generally don't organize transportation. People have to do that by themselves. We provide them a roster. We have generally what we call commissary. So most of the trips nowadays are individual commissary, where everybody brings their own food and also their own cooking equipment. In old times, the leaders provided the food, but this has pretty much ceased because of people have too many issues with food. typically we have one leader and one co or assistant leader on the trips. And how we recruit new leaders, it's basically done on the trip. So that's where we mainly recruit our new leaders. We have a Facebook site, I mentioned that. We have also a beginners training every year, which will be virtual this year, mainly virtual. It's late April. And so just briefly, the leader requirements it goes a little bit beyond what Bob mentioned. For the backpack, we have a little some additional requirements. Sierra Club members, of course. Then you need to have actual recommendations from at least 2 backpack section leaders on whose trip you have participated. That's generally the requirement. We have our own annual backpack section training seminar, which is typically a day in October or November. We still have to determine how we do it this year. It includes that OLT training and also backpack specific things also. And it's generally done by invite only, so it's not a public event. You need to assist and lead on at least 2 trips with an active backpack section leader as your mentor. And one of those trips is at what's called the provisional lead. And there's a leader, the new leader should really take on all the responsibilities: trip submission, safety management plan, screening, signing up people, sending out information, and also submitting the trip report. You need to hold a 16-hour wilderness first aid certificate. So the 8-hour is not sufficient for backpack. We require the 16-hour. And then finally, there's a vote by the steering committee to establish the new leader candidate as an active leader. Yeah, that's basically it. Thanks. Stop sharing my screen here.
Amazing. Thank you so much. And I dropped the link to the information about the beginners backpacking course in the chat there for folks who heard that and were interested.
Yeah.
Now we're going to turn it back to William to talk about the cycling section.
Excellent. Cycling section was established four years ago, approximately. We have a number of bike leaders, and I think between the 4 to 6 leaders that we currently have, we do somewhere between 10 and 12 bike trips a year. I mentioned earlier trips that I personally have done to Coyote Hills, Treasure Island, Iron Horse Trail. These are typically fairly short, and the ones that I lead are road-based, which means that we use road bikes. There's no constraint against using mountain bikes. However, most of the trips that I've seen planned by the bike leaders have been road trips, typically coast, typically near water, and typically fairly flat. Not a lot of hill, not a lot of road climbs. Biking section has the same requirements as the hiking section. Basically, you have to have your 101 training, which is online training. You have to have your medical certification, which is again 8 hours, and you have to have led a hike or led a bike ride. And it's pretty easy, pretty straightforward to become a bike leader. It's good if you have experience. It's good if you have bike trips that you've enjoyed and that you want to take people on. Typical bike trip will have somewhere between 6 and 12 people on it. For instance, Treasure Island bike trips that we've done in the past, we start at a BART station. This is a transit-oriented rides. Typically, you start and stop where people can use get off their bike from either a bus or a BART station. So starting at a BART station makes a lot of sense, and then returning to the same station makes a lot of sense. And then you traverse a path. Path is laid out, so much like hikes where I have an itinerary that is published. Bike trips do the same. For instance, the Treasure Island, we identified that we would stop gather everybody together before we got on the bridge. And then once we traversed to Treasure Island, we all stopped at a brewery and had lunch, which was excellent. And then we returned the same way back off the bridge, stopped, collected everybody together, and then continued back to Berkeley. So biking doesn't require a lot in terms of there's not a lot of knowledge transfer being done in terms of fauna and flora because you're moving pretty quickly. But there's an opportunity to discuss, for instance, the Coyote Hill bike ride. We pulled alongside the sloughs, wetlands, and talked about birds, talked about the reeds that were growing, talked about the Indian tribes that habitated that area and how they used the reeds, what kind of birds that they hunted, feathers, how they were used, etc. So there's opportunities to have a conversation about conservation, even on a bike ride, and that actually makes it much more enjoyable so that people can learn a little bit about the territory that they're passing through. Same thing on the Iron Horse Trail. We stopped on a regular basis. It actually ended up being at a brewery too, where we stopped and then turned around and came back. So there's a theme here, isn't there? That's it.
Thank you. And now we're gonna hand it over to Bob to talk about the hiking section.
I had to unmute myself. The hiking section is a long time activity section of the chapter. It was a long-term section when I started hiking with the club more years ago than I care to think about. Trying to think of how to describe Sierra Club hikes. They're a gathering of like-minded folks who wanted to go out and explore the outdoors. What I always tell people who are new to Sierra Club hikes is not to judge every hike by any one hike, because every leader has their own style and way of doing things. We do not dictate that you have to do A, B, C. There are common themes. You do have to have that first aid training. You have to be a Sierra Club member, at least to be a leader. Some leaders might emphasize the flora and fauna. Some might more emphasize the geography and geology, and some might just be out there to get outdoors and explore the trails in different areas. One of the things that we're blessed with in the Bay Area, of course, is a lot of open spaces in a lot of different areas. There's more areas that are opening up all the time, so there's always new areas to explore. And the main thing that the hiking section wants to ensure is that whatever hikes leaders choose to lead, that participants have a good experience and enjoy the experience. And again, the basic requirements is being a club member, having the appropriate first aid training. And ideally, a leader will have been out with the club beforehand to know kind of what to expect, both as a participant and as a potential leader. So for folks who haven't hiked with the club, you should be coming out and joining us. The one other thing that I would mention is that if you don't see the type of hike that you want to participate in listed on the calendar, it may be because we don't have the leaders that want to lead that type of activity. Speaking for myself, I don't necessarily want to lead a hike that's just 3 or 4 miles in length. For me, that's an afternoon constitutional. It's not a hike. But if that's what you want to lead, there are other people who want to do it, and we would welcome the opportunity to offer those hikes for folks who do want to do that. So don't think that you're restrained by what other people do. As a leader, you get to choose the hike that you want to lead in the places you want to lead it, and within the club's requirements, the way you want to lead it. And that's it.
Awesome. I love that. Make it your own. So our next two sections coming up are going to be from our Inspiring Connections Outdoors program at the Sierra Club, which is the goal of which is to provide safe and fun outdoor experiences for both youth and adults from marginalized communities. So I'm going to pass it off to Kevin Jordan, who is here representing the Inspiring Connections Outdoors rafting section. Thank you so much, Kevin.
Thanks for having us. So the rafting section takes participant groups out to raft rivers, and the primary river we take them on is the American River. And other rivers that we might go in a season would be the Kings River, the Trinity River, maybe the Merced River, but most of our trips are on the American River. And most of the trips now are just one-day trips, but we do overnight trips. It depends on the participant group we're taking. The participant groups are mostly Title I high schools or junior high schools. And so Title I think means that they have 35% or more students on the free lunch program. So we do outreach to those schools. Usually we find a science teacher, a PE teacher, some kind of teacher who likes the outdoors and wants to do something special with the students. I would say that before the trip happens, most of the participants don't know what the Sierra Club is. It's new to them. And so it's kind of a special thing to take them and do something really fun and explain to them what the Sierra Club is. When you're rafting on a river, you know, you're not only jumping in and swimming and having fun, but you can also talk about water issues. And water issues, as you know, are pretty huge here in the West. So that's kind of what we're doing. When you are becoming a leader, well, the rafting branch has several steps. You go through your guide training and you become an apprentice. And so your first summer, you may spend your whole summer being an apprentice. After you are on the river and you guide with another guide in the boat, a trip leader will observe your skills and 3 trip leaders will sign you off, and then you become a guide. And then after you're a guide, then you have your own boat, so to speak. And the vast majority of our volunteers just stay and become guides. And some have been guides for many, many years. Then if you want to become a rafting trip leader, then you need to take wilderness first aid, swiftwater rescue, and then you can become eligible to be a trip leader. I should say that most of our guides actually take swiftwater rescue as well. I'm going to ballpark and say that 95% of our guides don't take swiftwater rescue the first year, but within probably 2 years, most everyone's taken a swiftwater rescue course. And that's often offered within the Sierra Club, which is really cool. You take it with a bunch of like-minded people up on the river. Sometimes it's done in the colder season. For instance, we have one coming up just in a couple weekends here, and the water is going to be cold, but we still do swiftwater rescue. What else should I tell you about? We do about 20 trips a year. Our first trip is often around Memorial Day, and our last trip is sometime in September. And many of the guides get into it so much that they actually raft year round. I'm not a January rafter, but many of my friends are rafting on New Year's Day. So if that's the kind of thing you might want to do, then, but for me, I'm a summer rafter, and most of our guides are summer rafters. And we have the really cool job of taking kids who normally would not have the chance to go rafting down the river. And generally speaking, the kids are so grateful that I would say behavior issues on river are pretty rare. You give them a pretty thorough safety talk at the meeting and at the meeting at their school, then you give them a thorough safety talk at the river. And yeah, it's really awesome. I'm a science teacher myself. I taught 25 years in Oakland, and I would say that the Sierra Club and this program is probably the main reason I survived 25 years in Oakland. It gives teachers kind of a carrot, let's go have some fun. So I hope that some of you will consider joining our section. Thank you.
That is incredible. Thank you, Kevin. Yeah, might be some polar bear rafters out there. Who knows? And our next speaker is Linda DeYoung from the Inspiring Connections Outdoors backpacking group. So welcome, Linda.
Thank you. So ICO backpacking section is a little bit of a misnomer. We do backpacking and hiking and trips to different destinations as well. We're the oldest ICO group, excuse me, in the country. We've been around for over 50 years. And what we do is a little bit different. We partner with community groups. So it might be a school group, anywhere from second grade up through our oldest kids now are in junior college. Or it might be a community group. We had Oakland Kajikembo, which was a martial arts group. But we have these groups that we work with, and our goal is to have sort of ongoing trips with these groups. So we try to have multiple trips in a year with them. And the types of trips we do can be, backpacking in the Sierras, backpacking at Point Reyes. We do a lot of local hikes, either in the San Mateo coast or in the Oakland Hills. And we do backpacking. And we also do trips like to natural areas, for example, the elephant seals, or we'll take the ferry over to Angel Island. So it's really diverse. And what we do is when we have a group that comes to us, we talk with them about, what is it that they want to do? So we work with them to decide what trips we will do. And then we work with them to see how much support they need. So do they just need transportation, or do they want a full service trip? And our trips tend to be free. And so if it's a full service trip, we do everything from, organizing the trip, planning the transportation, coming up with all the activities we're going to do while we're on the trip. That could be a scavenger hunt, or we have like a huge book on activities like, meet your tree, where you have to describe your tree to somebody else and they have to find the tree. It's a lot of, education where it's in nature-based. And then, we often, the groups that we work with a lot, we tend to do more of, skills that can build upon each other, but oftentimes we don't have that much continuity with groups. So we have not tended to do that as often. So what does, I wanted to talk about behavior. All the groups we work with tend to have a really dedicated teacher or organization leader, and there's almost never a behavioral problem. It's pretty amazing. They tend to have really dynamic people leading those groups, and that's why they come to us, because they want to put out a little bit extra. The culture of our group, it's very much like you heard of when the rafting is, we get together, we're friends as leaders, but we're all very independent. So, we plan our own trips, we lead our own trips. So we're like-minded people, but we have very different ways of doing things, and you have a lot of freedom. So if you're someone who likes to do things a certain way, you have the ability to do that. And when you're planning a trip, as a leader, you reach out to all of our other volunteers within our group to find other volunteers who can go on your trips. So specific types of training. So we too have sort of our OLT 101 specific for ICO, and a lot of that is, interacting with youth. How do you manage behavioral problems? What are the requirements for reporting sexual or any other type of abuse? And then also we have a lot of specifics that are relevant to our group. How do you access our website? What are all the resources in the website? What's the reporting requirements? What are all the games you can play? We also have a gear shed. So we have, camping and backpacking and snow gear. So you learn about that. Our trip budgets. We also require WUFA for, there's 2 levels of leadership. There's the day hike and camping level, and then there's the backpacking level. And the backpacking level requires a second training, OLT 201. And the wilderness first aid is required for all levels of trips. And so what we do is, similarly to the rafting section and the backpacking section, leaders have provisional trips. So you'll take youth on 2 provisional trips with a mentor, and you can get signed off subsequently for hiking and camping, or you can just do that, or you can also get signed off on backpacking and doing a couple backpacking trips. So I think that's it.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Linda. That's an incredible program. Our final section leader who we have here tonight is Beth Biddle with Rainbow Sierrans.
Hey, I'm Beth, and like Virginia said, I'm with Rainbow Sierrans, which is the activity section, the LGBTQ activity section for Sierra Club. And so we encompass any kind of activity that people want to lead. So for myself, right now I do a lot of road cycling, outings, done gravel rides, hiking, kayaking, whale watching, tide pooling, as well as restoration and cleanup events. So yeah, I like to do everything. So Rainbow Sierrans is really perfect for me in that respect. And as far as other things that other leaders have led, I know some people have done like city walks in San Francisco, which are people love those. Those are very well attended. There's been book clubs, just all kinds of outings. Again, it's really like some of the other people said, if it's something that you want to lead, then you can make it happen. And we also do camping trips. I almost forgot about those. We do camping trips. Usually it's kind of more like long weekend camping trips, but again, if people can get a site and they want to lead it, then we fully support that. We're always, those fill up really fast. Our members are super into the camping trips and want more of those. So we're definitely looking for leaders that are interested in doing that. We're a very, very active group. We're definitely still rebuilding after COVID and getting some of our leaders back. So hopefully that will really get more activities starting again. And again, we're looking for more leaders for that. And as far as the requirements go, it's very similar to the hiking, biking section. You need to do the basic first aid. Unless you're doing it overnight, then we ask that you have the wilderness first aid. And then you do the OLT, and then you have 2 provisional hikes that you do with a current leader. So it takes a little bit of time to become a leader, but it's set up very well, and you get a lot of support. Anne is actually our outings chair for Rainbow Sierra, so she's super supportive and really helps people out. I know sometimes the leaders get stuck on having to do a write-up and put it in Campfire or put it on Meetup, and Anne helps out with that a lot. I also always volunteer to help out with that. So again, we just really want to encourage our leaders. And then something we also do, we really try to create a social environment for our leaders, because that is why some people like to lead. It's, it's good down in nature, but it's also the social component. So we try to do, like, we're having just a hike leader hike coming up in a couple of weeks, I think. So it's just a chance for hike leaders to get together, talk, enjoy each other's company, and go out on a hike and not be just the leader for that. We also are trying to do some hike leader dinners. We have picnics, things like that, just to create a social environment. And again, the great thing about being a leader, you get to do what you love. If there's a certain place you love going and you want to share that with people, that's kind of part why I became a leader. Like, there's certain places I love, and I love getting out into nature. And I want to show other people whatever it is. And I love talking to people about, if it's animals or plants or the history of a location. My friends are sick of hearing that. So it's really great. I get to talk to these people that haven't heard it so many times. So I love being a leader. I think I've been a leader since 2014, and it's really a fun thing to do. I definitely encourage people to do it. It's pretty easy, really, to become a leader, and you're well supported in it.
Oh, I love all of that, Beth. I have never heard of a gravel ride, but I will ask you about that separately later. That sounds fun. Wonderful. Well, we are next going to have an opportunity for anyone to ask questions of any of these section leaders who we've just heard from. Scott, do you want to just share your question aloud here?
Yeah, sure. Can everybody hear me?
Yep.
I hope
Yeah.
good. First, thank you for putting this together, Virginia. This was wonderful. And I'm a member, and I live in American Canyon, which is near Napa, and I'm on the executive committee of the Napa group of the Redwood chapter. And we discussed internally the need to have a much more active and vibrant activities for Sierra Club members in our area. And my first question would be, where can I get the schedule for the internal trainings, especially the first aid training, and any other training that would help me become a leader? Because I do have some, and I know I have colleagues on the executive committee who have ideas about events that we would love to do in the Napa area, hikes, biking events, tour of the city of Napa, and so on. So where do I start? That's my question. Long-winded way of asking that question.
Oh, and you're muted.
I'm muted.
Oh, no, Anne was muted.
I was muted. I was
Okay.
trying to answer the question here.
Okay.
All right.
You.
So the training isn't actually the outdoor leadership training isn't actually scheduled. Now, and that doesn't mean that it couldn't be. I mean, we could do an in-person scheduled training. We can do an online scheduled training. We don't happen to have anything like that on the calendar at the moment. It is possible to take an online self-paced training. That right now, that's what we tell people to do a lot. There's a booklet that you can read, and then there's a quiz that you take. It's best for people who have some outdoor leadership experience. And then the important part really is being mentored by another leader. So so you somehow want to make a
Mhm.
connection with someone who's an active leader.
Mhm.
And so it's kind of a, pass the baton kind of situation where leaders train other leaders.
Mhm.
And that person will, of course, give you whatever guidance you need, and then you'll co-lead with that person. And then as I think Thomas explained, but it's the same really for all activities, that you have what we call a provisional activity, where your certified mentor just kind of supervises, and if once you feel ready,
Mhm.
you do
Mhm.
everything. So yeah, we would need to get you connected up with actual current leaders.
And how does that happen? And,
Well, that's a good question. You said you're in Napa?
American Canyon, which
Oh,
is right
American
next to
Canyon.
Napa,
Yeah.
right next to Napa.
Yeah, so I mean, also there, it's possible that someone in, say, the hiking section might live up there.
Mhm.
Or, so yeah, it kind of goes by activity also.
Mhm.
If it sounds like hiking is mostly what you're interested in, or?
Yeah, perhaps a day hike, and biking too. I bike every day, and I bike in American Canyon. There's a wonderful trail that would be a perfect activity for Sierra Club members, if you will. And then we talked about doing like a walking tour of Napa, historical tour of downtown Napa. So, but the person doesn't have to be nearby. Obviously, it would be convenient, but it's not a necessity. So, I mean, I
Right.
can travel. So,
Yeah, sure. So,
Can I ask kind of a related question? if you don't
yes,
mind?
sure,
Hi,
Laura.
my name is Laura, and I live in San Francisco. And I've done a number of a couple Sierra Club, the big volunteer trips, the long ones through the Outings program. And through that, they suggested I think about doing local hike leader stuff. And I've tried, and I may need to be in a different group than in this group, it might be a different breakout group, but I've tried to sign up a number of times for the local hikes that are on the meetups, and they're always full, and they're full in like 5 minutes. And I was wondering if there's I've been a Sierra Club member for 20 years. I have more involvement, and I'm like, can I just show up? Do you if you're interested in being a Sierra Club trip leader, can I side message the leader, or can you access them somehow? Because I feel like I haven't had I take a lot of hikes, but I haven't had any local experience with Sierra Club because I can't get in the hikes, and I'm not going to wait till it opens up, on the meetup thing just makes me crazy, really. So
Yeah, and actually, I think both of the things you mentioned are good ideas. So in other words, contact the leader.
Okay.
And tell them that you're interested in becoming a leader, and could you possibly
join their trip?
Make special connections with that person, get on the list for their next hike. And what was your other idea? I forget what I was going to say. But you're not the only one who has this frustration with meetup. Many people do that.
Yeah. And I know a lot of people don't show up for meetup hikes either. So it's kind of, so it's good and bad, right? Casting the net wider, but then it kind of results in people who are really committed, not accessing it. Yeah.
I know the other thing I was going to say, and that is that, before we had meetup, all people ever did was to just show up at the hike, at the outing. There, unless it was something that was kind of more detailed, there was no sign up. But,
just in the yodeler, right?
That's right, and you just go. So many longtime leaders sort of still honor that system.
Okay.
So, if you showed up at my hike and said, hi, I'm a Sierra Club member, I'm not on meetup, I just read the yodeler, I'd say fine.
Okay. And then I have a related question similar to what the first one was, is with regard to the first aid training and the wilderness first aid training. Implicit, I think, in what was described is that we just get that on our own, right? We get it, we find it, we take it and show that we have it, besides having it at work. The Sierra Club isn't having first aid training courses, right?
The Sierra Club used to pre-COVID. host several first aid trainings a year. And that was actually how many people got trained. Now, and we're trying to resume that. So that's why you were sort of encouraged to, find your own if possible. But we are right now in the process of trying to do that. So, keep your eye on the calendar, because all of the chapters first aid trainings are always posted on the calendar.
Okay, thank
Yeah.
you.
So, Ann, can I interrupt real quickly and ask a follow-up question in that regard? The Red Cross
And then
first.
we want to let Adrian and
Oh, I'm sorry.
everybody
Okay.
else, but go ahead and finish, Scott.
Yeah, real quickly, Red Cross first aid training, does that suffice if the Sierra Club is not yet doing the first aid training?
Yes, it does. For short trips, it does. For
Okay,
an outing that's up to 4 hours.
Okay,
And,
okay,
yeah,
great.
and is not
Thank
in a remote location. Exactly.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Take it away, Adrian.
Yeah.
Well, that was mainly my question. I actually went through the process of starting this a couple years ago, and my first aid trainings expired just as I was just about set, and then COVID hit after, so it kind of fell by the wayside. So
To a bunch of people, unfortunately.
Yeah.
I have another question, totally different. If we're done with the first aid, I saw someone put it in the chat too, but I think it was a similar question. I don't know if that person has a follow-up.
Go for it.
So I am particularly interested in hikes with dogs. And so are there any restrictions obviously people without dogs can come, but is there anything around the Sierra Club that would require an extra waiver or permission or dog stuff if I was to become a leader and organize hikes with dogs?
Yeah. And that's an excellent question. The Sierra Club doesn't have requirements, but every leader should very carefully think through what, how to manage the dog situation. So that's really it. Most dogs, most leaders who lead dog hikes will put their policy in the the announcement.
Yeah, no rogue off-leash dogs, for example. Right.
If you want them to be on leash, you say so. If you have a behavior standard, you spell that out. You spell everything out as clearly as possible. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Yeah. So the follow-up now for anybody who might be interested in whatever group it is kind of work on your own qualifications. If you're not already integrated into taking some of the trips and meeting some other leaders, start to do that and then go from there. Is that the synopsis?
Yeah.
There's no application at this, for that, like right now, or there's just kind of
some activities have a formal application process. It sounds like the backpacking section kind of does.
Camping too.
And camping does too. Okay.
Snow camping.
Snow camping. Is that sounds like Bob's voice there.
I'm back, yes. And yeah, snow camping is another activity section. They're not represented here tonight, but they do have a very formal process. You have to, because the risks are higher when you're snow camping. So you have to have your leaders better trained.
Sure.
My summary was about the general hiking, but I don't know. Other people here might be interested in the broader stuff. Yeah.
I can tell you for the hiking section, we're somewhat informal. So if you were interested in leading hikes, we do have a handout, which given the revisions in the outdoor leadership training, well, I could see we're going to have to revise that. But yeah, we could send that to you, and that kind of outlines the hiking section requirements, and then you take it from there.
That would be great.
I'm
Laura Caristi. It's Lucky Laura K on that list.
Okay, and I can
send Virginia an email and reply to
you
your
could forward
email.
that to me, and I could send you the info.
Yeah, and I was just going to say, I'm going to drop a couple links in the chat here. We've got the first link I'm going to drop is sort of the overview of some of less detail, less character than we got tonight, but how to become an outings leader. And then the second, I think that includes a link to our the list of the section leader contact information, but I'm also going to drop that link in the chat as well so that you have that. And I will also follow up with folks who registered to this event with these links as well. Does anybody else have any general questions before?
I have another one. But I'll wait. Other people, totally different. So are there, and I might have missed this if I kind of spaced out a little bit. I heard in the, I think it was the Rainbow Sirens that they did some volunteer work, but are there some general volunteer activity organizing or groups that do that? That aren't particular, like, not that I wouldn't go on there, but like just more broad audience, or to do like trail maintenance work, for like the type of stuff I do on the Sierra Club volunteer vacation, but at a more local, you know. I work in the fields of ecology, and I know a lot of our park partners have, you know, volunteer opportunities for groups and like leading that.
Okay. Anybody want to take this one, or you want me to?
You're welcome to join us, Laura. I think we would.
Yeah, well, that too.
We would love your expertise.
Thank you. Yeah, but I mean, that's an organizer too, like, you know, but yes, of course. Yeah, I follow it. Thank you.
I would say a lot of the regional groups organize that sort of thing. And
what are regional groups?
Like the San Francisco, do I have the right term here?
Regional is fair enough. Southern Alameda County has a cleanup upcoming, and Don Edwards. So the regional groups are participating and organizing cleanup activities, yes.
And I would also add that if someone from the hiking section wanted to lead a service type outing, you know, cleanup, participate in a restoration project, something like that, it really depends on the volunteer leaders. If we had the leaders who would be interested and or willing to lead that type of event, we would be willing to sponsor it.
Okay, so as part of the hiking section, we'd say.
Yeah, but again, you could choose which group or section you wish to do it under.
Right.
Okay.
As a leader, it's your choice.
Okay. And if you, sorry, go ahead.
Well, another example, we used to have a monthly tree planting project in Oakland, and I don't know if that was even through any particular section. There was a chapter.
Actually, that was a the tree planting program was through the Northern Alameda County group.
Yeah, very good.
Okay, I'll follow up maybe separately about that, because then I have other, like, how do you get to be a leader for that if they're not already leader? Like, I've done tons of volunteering and organizing and all of that, but if I was like, yes, I want to lead one of those after I get my first aid, like, what do I do? You know, like that. So, or maybe come on one of the existing ones already. That I forgot that Beth, come on one of Beth's already first, and then see how it goes.
Yeah, absolutely. We encourage you to contact our leaders and make it happen. I love the idea of us having more cleanups and other service projects. So please do it.
Plantings. Yeah, that's my lane. You know, all the people I work with do it as a profession, but I'm in the office, you know, and I want to get out and do it. So, you know, volunteer.
If you don't mind me asking, this is a bit of a side tangent.
Yeah.
Are you affiliated with a particular company? Professionally.
Here or now? Like, what's my job?
Yeah.
I work for an ecological consulting firm based in the South Bay, and they're all scientists, ecologists, wildlife ecologists, restoration ecologists, but I'm in marketing. So I get to like see the pictures of what they do and write about what they do. But then there's always like tree planting that happens with volunteer groups in all, like we work with all the parks and all that, but it's unrelated to my work. It's just where my interest is.
The reason I was asking is that I work for Kleinfelder.
Oh yeah.
So
I work for HT Harvey and Associates. If you know.
Okay, I know them, and good company. So there are definitely opportunities, and if you wanted to use you know, some of the connections you might have to organize a, to participate, let's say, in a wetland restoration project that the refuge might be doing, and, you know, bring a group of Sierra Club folks in
Yeah.
to participate under the auspices of the refuge, of Mid-Penn, whoever it might be.
Yeah.
In instances like that, it might even be considered a quote unquote conducted activity for the club, which means you may not even need first aid training. I won't get into the details of it, but there are outings and there are activities. You
Okay.
need first aid training to lead outings, but
Okay.
for conducted activities, such as you may be bringing in Sierra Club volunteers, but they would be under the oversight.
Under the park.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
they would be responsible for group management and safety. You, as the organizer, may be more of a point of contact rather than a quote unquote leader, which means you may not even need first aid training to organize something like that. So
Okay.
again, we can get into the more minutia details of something like that offline.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you. That's exciting because that's where I'm really interested. So I didn't know this was a vehicle for that. I was going to explore that separately. So Beth, thank you you tickled my brain. I was like, oh, volunteering. Yes. Yeah.
Amazing. Does anybody have any final sort of general questions for our leaders?
Yeah, I have one. My name's Bill Cunningham, and so I'm interested in doing a lot of things. I started in the breakout room with Thomas about backpacking, but you know, I live in the East Bay. I'm an avid hiker, you know, in the East Bay Regional Parks and Mount Diablo, of course, and see hiking and backpacking as very related, of course. And then I'm also interested in knowing if I get involved in backpacking, whether ICO backpacking is a sort of a natural extension, meaning if you lead trips and you meet the qualifications for, you know, ICO, is that a thread that I could possibly follow?
Yeah, definitely. That's a thread. The only difference is you would need to do a couple provisional trips and do our ICO specific OLT 101 training, but you could get out on trips pretty quickly.
Great. Okay.
We'd love to have you.
Yeah, I'm really interested in that. I got exposed. There's another group called Big City Mountaineers, I think. Perhaps, you know, you're familiar with it and the kind of trips that they do, and that whole concept is very interesting to me.
Great.
All right. So thank you. This is very helpful and really interesting.
Anything else coming to mind for anybody?
Virginia, just want to say thank you to you and Ann for putting this together. It's been amazing. Really well done. Thank you so very much.
Great idea.
Awesome. Well, Ann, do you have any parting words for us? Oh, you're muted.
I'm always muted.
Somebody told me that if you talk while you're muted, you have to buy everybody a drink. So.
Well, I'm going to be really in the hole then. That's about my third or fourth time. Yeah. What was I going to say? I lost my, once you become an outings leader and lead your first outing, you will get a token of, or you'll get a piece of clothing of some sort with Sierra Club insignia on it. So just want to let you know.
Swag.
See, thank you, Bob. That's so much easier to say. So, and I just really want to thank Thomas and William and Bob and Kevin and Linda and Beth and Virginia for coming tonight and sharing your enthusiasm and your expertise. And I hope that everybody here can find a way to reach out and connect with somebody. I think that's really the next step, is to make a personal connection with someone who's a leader, and then they can guide you to toward your next steps in becoming an outings leader. And I really hope that you are inspired to become a leader and carry on the Sierra Club mission. Thank you very much for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good night.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.